problem though? What was the problem, the left out problem? Because, go ahead, Ramon.
There was a reason why they didn't want to sign it or ratify it. They felt like if something was left out from the Bill of Rights, then that could harm.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. There was a sense by a number of states out there that they did not want a Bill of Rights added to the Constitution. And their sense was that if we tried to include all of the freedoms that should be protected, it was very, very possible that something was going to get left out. And if something got left out, then that would basically mean that, frankly, when you think about it, there could be rights that would be violated. This would cause problems. They could conceivably just accidentally forget something, or how long would that list actually grow to? There were a lot of things that they were thinking about there. So that was left out. What do y'all remember? I'll go ahead and start a little bit for this. What do y'all remember? Okay, what's the difference between the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause? Go ahead, Jordan. You look like you want to talk.
Establishment is establishment of religion, and free exercise, you can believe whatever you want.
Okay, free exercise. First Amendment says Congress shall make no law regarding the establishment or the free exercise of religion. So when you talk about free exercise, it means exactly what it says. You should be allowed to practice the religion that you want to practice, and the government should not stop you. Now, what do you mean by establishment again? Say that one again.
You can establish your religion like in a public place.
Okay. You can't establish a religion in a public place. Anybody else?
You can't establish a national religion.
Okay, the sense, some people would argue that if the federal government endorses one religion over all others, you establish a national religion, and that's not allowed. There is a sense that if you endorse one religion over all others, even in a public school, that's not allowed. How must the government, in order to avoid violating the Establishment Clause, treat religion generally? Go ahead.
Use it for educational purposes, or
Okay, before we get into that, there's one basic rule. Go ahead.
Include all the religions?
Yeah, you got to treat them all the same. So if you're going to put a religion in a school, for example, or in a public building, for example, these types of things, then you need to put them all in there. Otherwise, if you just put one or if you just put a few, then you're basically raising some religions or establishing some religions over others. If, when you think about it, you step on some religions, meaning you lower them below the treatment of all of the other ones, then that also is not allowed. So the sense is that you got to treat all religions the same way. And if you as the government do something that raises one up or pushes some down, then that's a violation of the Establishment Clause because you're not treating them all equally. Now, can you give me an example? Because that's what you started to do. Can you give me an example of a violation of the Establishment Clause?
like some people say they should have prayer in schools.
Okay. Are you allowed to pray in school?
Yes, if it's to yourself.
Yes, if it's to yourself. Okay. Elaborate on this. Are you allowed to pray in schools?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You are, but you can't.
As long as the school doesn't enforce it, you're allowed to, like say for example, if us right here was to go outside and in the hallway, we'd be allowed to, and we'd be able to stop us. But when coming to college, you can't say you have to pray at 2:18 every
Okay.
day. So.
Okay. So if you're in high school, you're in the public schools, what kinds of prayers can you say? You can say whatever prayer you want.
No, whatever. I guess depending on whatever your religion.
Well, what kind of prayers are allowed?
Silent
Silent
prayers.
prayers. Student-led prayers are. So a student could conceivably say grace at lunch, and that's perfectly allowed. A student could bow his or her head and pray before a big exam and say, get me through this, I'll study next time. That kind of a thing, perfectly allowed. Can students go out and pray in groups before the school day starts or after the school day ends?
Yeah.
What's the thing, and you started to say this, Michonne, what was the thing that you said that the school can't do?
We can't force you to do it.
The schools can't force you or they can't lead you in
Yeah,
prayer.
school-led prayer.
And the sense is that if I'm a teacher or if I'm a principal or if I'm a guidance counselor, I'm paid for by the state, so that would be an example of the state basically stepping in and establishing religion, which is not allowed. What about the Ten Commandments? Are they allowed to be posted?
As long as they're posted up with other stuff during other religions.
Okay, go ahead, what do you mean?
I thought, well, last class we were talking about what would happen if we were to post up the other things pertaining to other different types of religion were posted up along, so it's like, if it were like Christianity and then like something Jewish, something Buddhist, something Muslim, they were all posted up,
Okay?
it would be fine. It's not like they were
Meaning-
discriminating
yeah,
against other religions.
meaning
as
they're
long
all
as
being
of
treated
them-
the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly one of the ways of looking at this. Some people would say that the Ten Commandments aren't allowed to be posted on the walls. Well, they are. Are they allowed to be posted by themselves? That's a little bit of a different question. But if you wanted to get them up there, as long as you posted them as part of a larger religious display, so that it wasn't a Christian display, but it was a religious display, perfectly allowable and perfectly okay. Perfectly okay. Now, what about, can they be posted by themselves?
Part of the legal type display.
What do you mean?
Rather than posting thou shalt not kill, you post the regulations for murder laws,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Okay, so you could post the Ten Commandments. What else could you post that would make it a legal display?
The Constitution, was it?
Say again?
Was it the Constitution?
You could post the Bill of Rights. There's 10
Yeah.
commandments, there's 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights. Anything else? Go ahead.
As long as nobody has a problem with it.
Okay, that's the other thing. Hold off on that for just a second. If you put together a number of other laws up there, like the Bill of Rights, like maybe United States law, like maybe state of Maryland law, for example, or maybe Montgomery County up there, and you put all of those laws, because when you think about the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery, these parts are actually all examples of laws. So if you put the Ten Commandments up there with other laws, now it's a legal display, it's not a Christian display, which makes it okay. So if you make it a religious display or a legal display, 10 Commandments are perfectly fine. Now, Ramon, to come back to what you were saying, what did you say just a second ago?
If it's posted, nobody argues against it, then it's okay.
The schools, believe it or not, it is illegal for them to do things that will establish a religion, like pray, for example, or like post the Ten Commandments. But the trick on this is that nobody has to complain. As soon as the first person complains, at that point they're going to be on legally suspicious ground. But if nobody complains, odds are they're going to be able to get away with it. And if you remember, I mentioned up here, there's a lot more diversity in the DC area than maybe there would be in Mississippi. So you might be able to get away with some things in Mississippi and Alabama that you wouldn't be able to get away with up here in DC.